actually, when I went over there, like, oh yeah, I already seen this show. I didn't like it the first time. I don't like it any better the second time.
First,
Same link? Still same. Just the 4, right?
yeah.
Go to Marek live stream. That's where tento event nebuď tam jenom ty ludzie budou tak si vytvoříte jdeme nastavit
Great to see you soon again.
live stream. Do you have
I actually,
ten event samotný? Lidi na ní mají link. Do you have any video?
It's not our tool. We have people logging in all over the world.
So it's live on
just
his
trying to-
channel.
What?
It's live on his channel, but not on that link.
The link doesn't work for some reasons, so it's holding.
We will have to.
Yeah, and then this one is working now.
So how do we get to that link?
It's under his.
Everybody.
But we've also posted that link to social media. Is there any way that, where is that link hosted? Is it on your website, on your servers?
Email or
Text it.
So could he put up something on that server that says, click on this link to
7315.
get to the webcast?
So I'm going to forward this to Howard and let him.
Can they put it on our page? So when they link it, when they sign up for the page?
I have no service. So you sent it?
Yes.
I'm going to get on the hold.
In other words, if at that link on yours, he just puts a link that says, click here to get to webcast, and you can click the little video.
Is there anything that can go?
I'm calling Howard now.
Yeah. He's not gonna pick up.
No, he picked up. I spoke to him already.
It's basically a new link.
Yes. So these guys, they don't know what the hell they're doing. I'm waiting for it to get this working. He sent me a new YouTube working. So can I call you and then email everyone who's logged in? No. And of course, what makes this even more difficult is that there's no service.
Yeah, well, and they're supposed to be plugged in to. So they've sent the new link.
Okay. Did you be able to stream it?
Well, but see, the problem is everybody's logged in.
They're logged into a faulty link.
The wrong
So we
link.
need to figure out, he's going to figure out a way.
And we thought it was working because it kept saying,
Right.
wait till this day, wait 39 minutes.
We saw the preview. On it.
Can you guys replace that existing feed that says event is about to begin? So message links. They can click the link and it'll just.
Yeah, that would be the easiest.
But that is only says
Just have a
it
redirect
starts.
on this second.
Start your hangout on air tomorrow. Is there any message? Some feedback to the link? All the comments, yes, we put comments.
What's that? This was what my life was
has the link.
We got 6 people on the new one, so they see already.
So is there a redirect from the original page?
That's what we're trying to do.
How long do you think it will take?
We have 5 minutes or we still can do another 5 minutes. So let's see what we can do.
Catherine?
Well, I've got the new link up.
Okay.
And unfortunately, this is not our problem, it's their problem.
Okay.
They redirecting it, and I think they just have to post it on this other page.
So
There's
people
six
click on the
people-
link that
there's
was
6
sent
people have
out.
already signed up.
Okay.
On the new link.
Okay, but is that getting like, if people followed the link that we had
That's what
initially
we're
set
trying
up?
to do.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Nice to see you. Leslie's not sure what happens. So, thank you.
Bayağı inanmamış. Öyle. Yeah, the stream's working. He sent a message to the old one. Yeah, with the link. The new one.
So it posts on that link?
Yes.
There's like a post that says.
Yeah, there, please
Yeah.
redirect to this. Just show it starts.
Thank you very much.
How they have it?
Yeah, I mean, how it hasn't got. It's working. You can hear. So, you can hear something.
Okay. But has Howard been able to redirect it?
He said we just put it up, so I'm assuming he hasn't gotten back to me with more.
Double check with the mic.
This mic?
Mark.
Mark?
When it starts, I just hear the background noise and you guys talking. You just hear that.
So they can see it?
They see that.
That's good.
Because we're gonna switch the cameras.
working for sure.
Yeah, I'm just gonna verify. No, they can hear us already, but this we manually, if you wanna switch just for a second, to switch the camera for a second. So they can see us. You can do announce. If they see that, so that means it's okay. Because we have a switching between cameras.
I think maybe let's just land on the new camera. Land on the
Okay, land on the camera. Switch to the live camera. Okay, so we are. So switch it back to the.
minutes. What's that?
He's gonna introduce you.
Yeah, I know.
Everything.
Yeah. There's a lot of antique work
With the content of the outlet.
It doesn't let us change one crucial parameter for some reason.
Hopefully, we'll just wait till Robbie comes back. Hopefully the wife can get it on. They can change the link on the old site. They can, evidently, they can only do one, so is there any way we can post like a redirect, like a comment or redirect on the Wise website? Not the Wise website, but the, that landing page where the YouTube video is? What's that? They can do it. So the only thing we can do is go into test, copy all those email addresses and send it to the people in an email saying, please go to this address. So it's, so if you go into test. If you go into virtual play, for the unconventional play, a multi-preference, not the one above report utility. And then this is multi-preference, so you get the rosters. In fact, if you want, you can call, have somebody call Emily in the art office. She's been working on this. She could probably do it really fast. Coyne, C-O-Y-N-E. So we're gonna have to send everybody who signed up a new email. So we're working on that now. And that's just the beauty of technology. So we're sending everybody who signed up online a new email. With
Okay,
a
but
new
is
link.
there a redirect to the old link?
Well, they can't, evidently they can't do it.
Is there any
So
way,
they're gonna send an email with the redirect for the new link.
but what about the people, remember that news went out?
At this point,
Can you send me the new link? Or can you have somebody send me the new link and I can get
what you
Cindy Brocker to send it out?
here, why don't you give them your. Do you have the link?
Can you text me the new link so that I can get one of my board members to repost it? My number is,
Just.
became a very different. And I was working for 2 years. And then I
If it's not 7, and not even 1. Number?
412-977-2.
What's the last point?
208.
I'm surprised. And how many you got registered?
So
we're close. I mean, we're getting people are migrating over.
Just flip it on. I just send it to you. Oh, it's, check it out.
Oh, there's no question about it. Like I know Lynn, yeah, one of the biggest ones. So you were studying in New Jersey.
How are you?
Good, how are you? I don't have a clicker already. Do I have to tell them I want to?
Does she have a clicker to pass the slides?
Where is it?
I think so. Does that look like it?
Yeah, it says the Robbie.
Can we start? Greetings, everybody, and thank you for coming. We apologize for the delay. We're trying to participate in the 21st century, but it doesn't always cooperate with us, I'm afraid. So I'm Josh Green from the National Council on Education for Ceramic Art. Thrilled to be here. Thrilled to be here, especially because we're here with L.Futter, who I've had the chance to kind of get to know and observe at work, along with Lee Taylor Mickelson, our board member, who've been working on a terrific show that is coming up in Kansas City as part of NCCA's 50th year celebration. That is going to be part of Makers, Mentors, and Milestones, our conference. It'll be the fourth time we go back to Kansas City because in many ways the city has established itself as a real epicenter for the training of fantastic young ceramic artists, the cultivation of new talent, and more a truly vibrant contemporary art scene. So we're excited to be part of that climate there. It's also been an incredible treat to work over the past couple of years with Bobby Silverman and our friends at the 92nd Street Y. And I'm going to turn it over to Bobby right now. I've got some promotional posters about the upcoming NCCA conference up here. So if you'd like one, just step up at the end of the talk.
Thanks, Josh, and thanks everybody for coming. I want to welcome you all here, as well as hopefully close to 100 people around the world who are going to be seeing this as our first live stream. Just to give you a little bit of background, 92Y Virtual Clay, we started a few years ago. The idea was to bring together professionals, most curators, educators, artists, top people in the field to present to hobbyists and students all over the world issues that are really the most important and contemporary in the field. So this happens to be our first attempt at live streaming. We're going to do this again at NCCA, and want to say thank you to NCCA. They've been incredible, incredibly engaged, and are really wonderful partners over the last several years. Just want to let you know upcoming events for 92Y Virtual Clay and NCCA's collaboration. On March 9th, William Strickland, who is a MacArthur Genius Award Fellow and the founder of the Manchester Craftsmen's Guild, will speak on the clay and the possibility of change. And then on April 6th will be Globalization and Sustainability, the Future of Ceramics. And this is going to be with Wendy Gers, who's in France. And what we're going to, I'm sorry? I'm sorry. So Wendy Gers is a historian curator who's in France, and we're going to actually try to have 4 different presenters from 4 different countries simultaneous. So that's going to be ambitious, and that will be on April 6th. And for more information about the program, you can go to www.92y.org virtual clay. So for today's talk, as Josh mentioned, we're really pleased to have Dr. Catherine Futter. So Dr. Futter is the Director of Curatorial Affairs at the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art in Kansas City, Missouri. She has been with the Nelson Atkins Museum for over 13 years and was previously the Lewis L. and Adelaide C. Ward Senior Curator of European Arts, overseeing the departments of Ancient European Art, Architecture, Design, and Decorative Arts. While at the Nelson Atkins Museum, she has overseen permanent collection, reinstallation projects, curated contemporary art, design, and architecture exhibitions, and co-curated a major international lone traveling exhibition, Inventing the Modern World, Decorative Arts at the World's Fair, 1851 to 1939. She is co-curator with Lee Taylor Mickelson of the forthcoming exhibition, Unconventional Clay, Engaged in Change, will be at the 2016, and it is the 2016 NCECA Invitational, and it will be held at the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art, February 26th to the 24th. And this is the subject of her talk today, and we're really pleased to have her. Thank you.
So thank you all for being here, and I can encourage you to come to Kansas City. This is a great time to come. It is, not only did we win the World Series, which the city is very proud of, but it's also a time where there's great food. It's not just barbecue anymore. There's great music, whether it's jazz and blues or whether it is the symphony. It is great art galleries, but it's also a clay town. Many of you may think it's a cow town, but that's what it used to be, and it's a clay town. I arrived in Kansas City literally the week that NCECA was in Kansas City in 2002. So I was able to see all my clay friends there, and it got me to a great start in really getting into the fabric of the ceramic world in Kansas City. During NCECA, there will be dozens of concurrent exhibitions. So there's also the Invitational, but all the galleries, pop-ups will be all over. At the Nelson Atkins, the exhibition will open a little bit before NCECA, so it will be there February 26th as our opening, and it closes on June 12th. So if you want to wait until all the snow goes through and ice storms and come when it's a little warmer and enjoy Kansas City, we'll also be there. We have, with working with Lee, we really wanted to think about what we could do to show what the clay world was really engaged in right now. And we thought very long and hard about the words that we chose for this exhibition. As I mentioned, Kansas City, and Bobby mentioned, and Josh mentioned, that really it's this heart and this young talent. And I want to dedicate today's talk to Chase Grover, who unfortunately passed away earlier this week. He is completely coincidentally, and it's a great honor, he's the cover of the NCECA Invitational Catalog. I think we lost somebody who was young, vibrant, and really encompasses everything we were trying to do with this exhibition. So it is with great sorrow, but it is also with great pride and energy that he knew that we were celebrating him and he's participating in the exhibition. So let's see. There we go. Lee and I really were thinking about what were we going to do that would be the show. How do we show something about what is clay today? Clay is a material in our minds. It's not a vessel. It's not a sculpture. We wanted to explore all the different ways that clay could be used and expressed. And one of the things that we did was really to think about how clay could be just one material that would be part of an artist's entire catalog of things that they use. So that was one of our things. The other thing we wanted to do was to really focus on new work. There's some challenges in that, and I'll get back to those when you'll see that I have representational images because the artists still haven't finished making them. So we have some surprises in store for us. We wanted to do installation work. We wanted to do vessels, sculptures, a whole variety of work. Most of the artists are quite young, and we really made sure that they were artists who hadn't been in an NCECA show for over 5 years, and we wanted recent work. So I'm just giving you an overview right now of all the installation work that is in the exhibition. And then these are some of the works that will be in vitrine, so the smaller works. But even some of those are even installations and performances. So one of the forms that we thought about engagement and change was really sort of people, artists who were dealing with social issues, political issues. How would we represent them? And so we have a few here. Simone Lee, who will also have a concurrent exhibition which opens, I think, in the beginning of February at the H&R Block Art Space, which is part of the Kansas City Art Institute. Part of the reason that NCECA is coming to Kansas City is this long tradition. The Art Institute has been around for over 130 years. Its ceramic program is world famous, partially because of Ken Ferguson, who arrived in 1962, trained so many students that have gone out to be professionals, including Bobby down here. So it's a huge, long legacy that we wanted to celebrate. So there will be a concurrent exhibition. She'll have video in it. It's not just ceramics, but here Simone is working with salt-glazed stoneware in her cowrie shells, and then these bell hoop forms, which refer to the panier skirts that African and African-American women wore at the middle of the 19th century, sort of imitating what European wore. So it's all about the transfer of ideas, women's roles, very much things that we're still dealing with today. Aaron Toole will have a residency at the Nelson Atkins March 6th and 7th. Aaron makes cups, that's what he says. He's made over 17,000 cups and given them away. And here's an installation shot from an earlier installation, but he will, during his residency, he will throw cups in the block lobby of the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art and solicit images from the public. Especially, he was a Marine, so he works with the military veterans or their families. He gets images from them. This time he's broadening out to other groups who can bring images. He'll scan them, turn them into decals, and then they'll be fired in part of the installation. And then the cups will be given away. They will be given away, at least some of them during NCECA, and then at the end of the exhibition. So free cups, come to Kansas City. Dustin Yeager, who's up in Minnesota, he works at the Northern Clay Center. These two stools, which are based on Chinese garden stools, have images taken from the AIDS crisis, whether it's a hypodermic needle or whether it is imagery taken from Robert Mapplethorpe. It is to engender conversation about the AIDS crisis, which is by no means over. So it's not in the past at all. Carrie Rickard, who is in England, I think it's quite interesting. She takes American military imagery on very traditional looking ceramics using decals. So we will have an installation of her work, and I think it sort of speaks for itself as it's dealing with the military might of the US government. Then we've also dealing, as I said, using artists or including artists who use ceramic in a different way. This is actually projection. Those are ceramic sort of abstracted hands, and onto them are projected eyes that by you engaging in the space, they seem to start following you around, and when you stop after a while, they go to sleep. So why would you use porcelain as your medium? So it really starts asking the question, why is clay used in an artist's oeuvre? Ben Harley is a recent graduate of the Kansas City Art Institute, still based in Kansas City, and he looks at clay in its most ephemeral forms. He makes unfired clay, in this case, sort of referencing the classical column. It is then destroyed with water. He re-wedges the clay, then casts it again, and starts the process all over. So he does performative works. And he'll have one of his pieces as well as he does video of the whole process of creating, destroying, recreating. Zemer Peled from Israel. I think many of you know her. She's been on the cover of Ceramics Monthly. She's now in Montana. And this is actually the work that's coming to the Nelson Atkins. It has arrived. It's made out of shards of porcelain in this very natural yet rather shocking and sharp interpretation of nature. So that will also be one of our big sculptural pieces in the exhibition. This is a representational work of Adam Shiverdecker. He's out in California, in San Jose. He is making a tail section of a Learjet, life-size, that will be suspended from the ceiling in black basalt clay and wire mesh. We hope it arrives safely. And as you can imagine, the museum has been talking about engineering and how much it's going to weigh and how we're going to get up there and all those things. So we believe he's bringing it, but he will be there for the installation. But this was his master's program work. Nathan Mabry, another graduate of the Kansas City Art Institute who's out in Los Angeles. Nathan really takes historical and art historical references and morphs them, plays with them. He did a great series of taking the Rodin's burgers of Calais in bronze and putting new masks on them of sort of cartoon figures, grotesque cartoon figures. Here he's looking at Peruvian, ancient The bases are then based on Donald Judd sculptures, so he's playing with modernity, the ancient world, classical references, different cultures, all to make you think about what is art history. You get that? Okay. And we're very happy that this is actually a recent gift to the Nelson Atkins. So it's really wonderful, and that will be in the exhibition. And it's quite huge. Robert Harrison takes both found objects and industrial objects and marries them into new constructions. And so here we have industrial pipes with what we might be able to say is sort of almost throwaway, kind of kitschy teapots and things into new constructions that make, again, like Nathan, think about the past and the present and different kinds of what is clay and how it's used, how it has industrial uses as well as very decorative, or whether it's actually used in ceremonies like tea ceremonies. And I mean that in the sort of more European mode of tea ceremony. Then we have Adams Purrier, a young artist who's working in Brooklyn. This is where we get to incorporate ooze or goo into our installations. So he applies this viscous material that runs through the piece and then hardens, and he'll do 2 applications of that. So again, how much clay does he use in his pieces? How much is he really using that as just one of the many elements in his art? Adam Beck also is looking at the uses of ceramics. He also is looking at the natural world. He's thinking about the huge cloud structures that we see with climate change, and how he does his research by taking photographs or imagery off the internet of these enormous cumulus clouds, then rendering them through computer programs, making them into ceramics, and then also incorporating petroleum products, because that also speaks to climate change and the effect of our intervention in the natural world. This one does not ooze. So. Andy Brayman, who is an Alfred graduate but lives and works in Kansas City. These are representational works because he's still building his pieces. He's planning to make a vessel, which will actually be a cell phone. And so thinking about sort of the portability of the mobile phone, vessels, voices, how the echoing of a chamber, but also he's going to do a piece where LED lights through motion sensors will also react to the visitor's presence. He's very interested in taking technology and reformatting it, reusing it into different configurations. And again, how does he use ceramics as his main material? Tom Sachs, I like to say that he's sort of the essence of the exhibition, and he said a really great quote to us when Lee and I visited him, which is, "I want porcelain to be one of my iconic materials like duct tape and plywood." And here he is on the left-hand screen. This is a reference to an 18th century Sèvres vase, but it's made out of different materials, including shoelaces and screws. And what role does ceramics play in the history of objects, the history of bricolage, or using everyday found objects and making new objects? And now every day he makes Japanese-style tea bowls, chawans. And this is also very exciting because he has an installation at the Noguchi Museum, the first single artist installation other than Noguchi out in Long Island City that opens on March 23rd, called Tea Ceremony, where he is creating a whole new tea garden. And Lee and I were able to visit his studio and saw the most amazing pine tree made out of Q-tips, toothbrushes, and tampon holders that was then going to be cast in bronze. So there's all these wonderful connections that go to the NCCA exhibition all over the place. Oh, and this is a walker that's also made out of porcelain, a really sort of impossible object to make, to fire. It breaks many times, and so it's really what is impossible to make out of. Why would you make a walker out of porcelain? So questions the uses of materials. Beth Cattleman, who is lovely, she's here, referencing the historical English wallpapers, also Wedgwood jasperware, in taking found objects, figurines, and recreating or refashioning new narratives. It looks all very sweet and then you get up close and you'll start to see that things aren't as quite as lighthearted as you first imagined when you sort of approach them. Trisha Coates, a young artist who's working in Wichita, who also is casting different found objects and flowers and recreating or creating new installations. So she'll be doing a big installation work for the exhibition. Thomas Schmidt, who is in North Carolina, he uses a lot of computer programs in order to create his forms. He then casts them, then he uses other programs in order to make decals, and then actually constructs them. So they're not actually all cast as one piece. So this is quite a small object that will be in the, and this sort of questions, how are ceramics being fabricated today? From using computers, such as 3D printing, by using hand fashioning, using a combination of the two, all the different kinds of technologies that can be brought to bear to make objects using clay. So this is Brian Sibitz and Sean Spangler. One of them is in New York and the other one is Hawaii. So you can see that you can collaborate even though you're thousands and thousands of miles away because of technologies. And you can create things that are literally physically impossible to make because you're having a computer print them. As you all know, there's all different kinds of uses of 3D printing, from resin and nylon to cement and ceramics. So a lot of young artists are really sort of playing with this new technology. And Chase Grover, this is actually all hand fashioned, this really delicate work. Chase was a master's student, and so we have his final piece that will be in the exhibition, and uses copper oxides on it to create these different sort of very precious, very organic kinds of references. And then we move into sort of maybe some of the more, this is in our casework. And Paul Scott, who there's some work upstairs by him, again, using the past and the present, a very romantic view of what Palestine was, seen by English engravers in the 1840s in the platter and the transferware design, overlaid by Paul with a contemporary image of Gaza after the destruction there. So it makes us think about how the past can be a romantic kind of view and the reality of what today is that era. Jessica Brandel, who's also a recent graduate of Kansas City Art Institute, and she's up in Iowa right now doing teaching for a sabbatical position. Makes very kind of traditional wares, vessels, plates, tureens, yet her imagery really references whether it's dinosaurs or extinct dodo birds or the romantic West that is now in the past. Brendan Tang, who's up in Vancouver, works up in Vancouver, who uses both historical, as you can see from the blue and white vase, and then combines it with manga and other cultures to create a new vocabulary. As he said, globalism didn't start recently. It's been around for millennia. And so he uses the sort of these references back and forth to create new objects. Anthony Stalaccio, who uses clay as only one of his elements. He visits people in their homes. He takes memorabilia or ephemera from them, photographs. He then burns them in rituals and creates these boxes, which are mementos. These are very ritualistic objects for him. For us, I think they intrigue us with what's held in those tiny little vials, what kind of memory that these hold. All right, there we go. And finally, Joey Watson, who's another recent graduate of Kansas City Art Institute, who makes vessels that are actually for the breath. These are droning instruments, and he has very elaborate performances, and he'll have a performance on the evening of March 17th during the NCECA reception. He has all kinds of rituals that he goes through. He collaborates with musicians, with dancers to create these very otherworldly kinds of performances. You can see him and their costumes are part of this whole performance. And so I think he sort of brings what's the future of ceramics today and where are we going to go. So I hope you'll all come and visit Kansas City for the exhibition. And I want to thank Lee, and what a great pleasure we had working together and picking our artists. And as I said, this is really just the tip of the iceberg of all the many, many things that are happening in Kansas City. So I'm happy to take questions, and probably Lee is too. Okay. And thank you.